Shazam?
Peacemaker. What a joke.
My name is Barry Allen, and I am the fastest man alive. I am the Flash.
Truth, justice,
the American way.
I'm vengeance.
Hello and welcome to Elseworlds DC Fan Podcast. My name is Jordan, and with me, as always, is Chris. How are you today, Chris?
Doing great. Couldn't ask for a more productive, good day. And we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about like we always do. So there's no reason for anything but smiling.
Yeah, looking forward to this show this week. So like we do always, Arrowverse update first, and then the next episode you'll see is Man of Steel, the 10th anniversary. Kind of look at that on Superman's 85th anniversary. So we'll kind of dive into that in the next episode. But if you wanted to know where we're going to stop at for Arrowverse today, it is through all of the seasons that we just talked about last week. So that means through season 5 of Flash, through season 7 of Arrow, through season 4 of Legends and Supergirl. And that's it, right? There's only 4 at that point.
Correct.
Yes. I know people will probably be like, what about Black Lightning? Well, I'm actually watching that now before Crisis. So we will get to that at another point, I guess. I don't have many thoughts to add to that anyway. But yeah, so that's where we'll be stopping. So if you haven't gotten through all of that stuff and, you're watching the Arrowverse right now like I am to try to get to that Flash finale and the end of the Arrowverse as a whole, then you might want to stop listening if you're not at the point that we're about to talk through. Next week, if you're curious on where we're going to get to, it's Crisis on Infinite Earths. So the Arrowverse part of that. So we will get to that next week. So if you want to know what to watch beforehand, there you go. But yeah, so let's dive in, I guess. I had a very a good time. We talked about it a bit more in depth last week about how much I liked Flash season 5, and we kind of talked about an episode that was not in the group that we were supposed to talk about. We talked about the Calls in Excess, which was episode 14 of the Flash season 5, but overall I really dug it. I know some people probably had problems with Cicada. That's kind of the vibe I get, but I actually enjoyed Cicada. I actually enjoyed Chris Klein's campy performance as Cicada.
I think it was the voice. I think it was the voice of Cicada. Told you. Constantly, I'm going to get you.
See, that was another one that I inadvertently saw an episode of while my parents were watching. It was when they find like when Sherlock and Ralph find out about the mask and they go to like the factory that they use them at. Like I saw that part when my parents were watching. I forget what episode that was in, but just a fun. I like that team too of Ralph and Sherlock both being detectives. I thought they had some pretty good run-ins there. I wasn't crazy about Nora kind of turning evil due to Eobard Thawne's negative Speed Force. Wasn't too crazy about that and the whole like young rogues storyline and how they randomly brought back, B-Girl again. But it was fine. Like I liked seeing Ragdoll. Ragdoll was really cool. Just the fact that they got a real contortionist too, to be able to like do some of those things, obviously not all those things, but to be able to do some of those things I thought was really, really cool. And then the end of the season, I really liked that post-credit scene where obviously the crisis date on the newspaper changes to 2019, because that was a question I had as I'm watching the pilot is, I remember the newspaper playing a part in Crisis on Infinite Earths when I watched, the crossover before I watched the Arrowverse. And I was like, I had no clue that it was supposed to be 2024 originally. And I guess they just put that there as a far out date in case if the show ran 10 years or if they ever got to Crisis, they could always do what they did, which is just change the date of it. And it made sense when they kind of set it up with the Central City Citizen being published earlier as a newspaper too. So there was things in the timeline that was able to change. So I really liked how they kind of set that up. And, the Nora disappearing and that whole scene and the way that was acted, I thought was very intense and very emotional. I really dug that too.
I love season 5 of The Flash, other than Sherlock, because I know is controversial on the show. I love this season. It was fun. It was really interestingly written. I thought Cicada was a menacing villain who had an actually good backstory. Like there was a reason, there was some motivation behind it, and then you got the second Cicada, and you see that set up, and the way that sets up, especially in that Dreamscape episode. I really enjoyed that Dreamscape episode. I thought that was where
Me too.
start.
I liked seeing more of the Flash Museum and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and Iris being afraid that she was a bad mom, and Barry reassuring her like, "Look, you haven't even done that yet." That there's a lot of fun stuff here, and this season really sets up the idea of how hard is it to raise a kid that you already know as an adult.
Yeah, where you don't even go through any of the young years, so you don't even have like this emotional bond that you would of raising a child. You're getting the child when she's like 25 and you're having to parent her. She's not used to you being a parent because you were gone. In Barry's case, in Iris's case, she had this whole issue of being able to relate due to her putting that dampening chip in her. So there was some distance there. But yeah, I just thought the Nora stuff was really cool. And I like the reveal that she was working with Thawne. I thought it was funny how Thawne's whole purpose is to help them get a cicada that they can actually defeat. So that way they would be able to remove the dagger. So that way it would stop dampening his power so he could escape. I thought that was all like, what a plan by him. And he had that in his head from when they went to visit him in that 100th episode. They tie that back when he said, I wouldn't have known about that until Nora's the one that slips up and says it's for Cicada, while Barry was trying to keep that information kind of on the down low. And it was a spot of giving too much information to Thawne, and he goes and sets up his whole plan in motion. Once he probably realizes he's getting strapped to this dagger, he's like, oh, now I know how to kind of manipulate this and exactly how I need to manipulate this so I can get out of this. And it works. And we get this whole scene of him like killing all of them. But then Nora's ability to be able to reverse time if she runs fast enough was set up for this moment. Like there's little bits in this season. We kind of got it at the finale last season when they punched the satellite out, that you see Barry do it by himself and then time reverses and then Nora goes and helps him. And we see it. And she mentions it, like, if I run too fast, I can reverse time. And just the way that was all set up, it paid off. Like they had this stuff planned out perfectly for some of this. The last two seasons, season 4 and season 5, it felt like they planned out everything well in advance.
Yeah, I like Cicada's storyline a lot. I think this is kind of the end of the season-long bad guy arc for Flash. I think they start to try to space it out with more stories in the season. But I thought that this elaborate plan, like you said, was really awesome. And I really think Nora made the show better because first off, Nora's fun. Secondly, she's a very believable daughter of Barry and Iris. She has the best qualities of both characters. And she is, a lot of times when Barry can't figure something out, he gets himself in trouble by acting and not stopping and saying, I got to figure this out. I got to figure this out. And Nora needed someone, she needed a team to help her do the things that Barry did, to have the team to center her and bring her back into the right situations. And she found to get by Thawne, which is probably not the best way to go about it. But then you've got the entire thing of the show's better when Thawne is involved. It was a very creative way to keep Thawne involved. So I thought you had two characters that really always propel the show in a positive way. I think Nora, every time Nora is here from this point on, the show is better.
And then I guess let's kind of segue into Legends, because we didn't get to talk about that a lot last week. Legends season 4. I did have some complaints. All right. And I was texting you some of these complaints, but for the listeners, some of my complaints here, the Time Bureau stuff. While interesting at times, the fact that it was pretty much a secondary set and it always had a plot line in the episode was not for me. I like it a lot more when the Legends are all on the ship. And I understand, like, Nate, apparently, like, the actor had a family issue, so they put him in the Time Bureau for the first half of the season, so he would have less time filming. And then once that was done in the first half, he kind of got some more screen time. He's one of my favorite characters, so I was very happy once he started making more appearances. I did like Hank. I did like his dad, and it's not just because it's Tom Wilson who plays Biff in the Back to the Future universe, but they also make a great joke with that when he says, like, let's make like a tree and leave or whatever. And Nate says something about that. But I did like Hank. I thought like that whole dynamic of seeing Nate's family and stuff was cool, but it was just felt like a little bit too much bureaucracy at times, and too much like worried about, we need funding, when we didn't have to worry about that the first 3 seasons of the show. And all of a sudden they have this weird problem of they're governmentally funded, so they would be able to, I don't know, I feel like they would just be able to just get on the Wave Rider and do whatever they want no matter what anyway. So that was very odd part of the season for me. It felt like there was a lot less time on the Wave Rider. I liked Mona at first, but once she became like infected and became where she's able to like Hulk out, I liked Mona less. Yeah, so I guess let me rank my Legends.
Oh, here we go.
The ranking of the Legends. All right, Ray
Here
Palmer
we go.
still number 1.
Very good.
Ray Palmer, baby. Nate number 2, as always. I'm gonna go with Zari's number 3 still. I really like Zari a lot. I don't like the finale with Zari because she's like wiped out of existence. I'm sure that'll somehow get fixed. Let's go number 4 with... There's a lot less people this season, too. They lost a lot of Legends. Number 4, we're going to go Nora. I actually really like Nora Dark in this season, which is probably a surprise for the listeners because I complained about her and her dad last season. But
I like Nora.
I did like Nora. I'm going to go next with... I guess we'll go Sarah next. That's 5. And then I'll probably go Ava 6. I'll go Nick 7th. Constantine 8th. And I was not a fan of Charlie that much. So I have Charlie 9th. I'm glad they still have Maisie Richardson Sellers, but they felt like they just didn't want to bring Amaya back because she has her destiny to fulfill. They kind of got themselves in a corner, but they really like the actress, so they brought her in as Charlie. That's what it kind of feels like, and I'm sure that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I like Charlie. Charlie's one of my favorites. I like Charlie a lot. The punk rocker vibe.
Maybe she'll get better, but I felt
Yeah,
like it was a rough season to start off with her.
I thought it was a rough start. I will give you that. I'm surprised you have Ava so low, but other than that, I don't know what Sarah Lance has to do to get near the
She's
top. But
5. That's like halfway. That's
okay,
pretty
that's
good.
halfway.
That's
All
pretty
right,
good.
so okay, so for me, it's always going to be uh, Sarah, Ray, and Zari as
Okay.
my top three. That's unchangeable. And
I guess I should have ranked Gary too. Hold on, if I'm ranking Gary,
but you don't have to rank Gary. That's kind of the running bit of the show that he doesn't quite count.
well, if I'm ranking Gary, maybe Gary takes over 5th.
I do
And
have a
knocks
soft
Sarah
spot
down
for
to
Gary.
6. Yeah.
You're gonna put Gary, You're gonna put Gary over Sarah Lance.
I love Gary so much. But he's listed as
I
not
don't know
a
what to
main
say.
cast member, so I'm not going to rank him.
So what this means is when we learn the big secret about Gary later on, he's going to end up being above Sarah. That's what we've learned.
Maybe
Excuse
we'll
me.
see. We'll see. Oh, and if I had to rank Mona, I guess she'd be bottom. Mona
That's
is
fair.
probably below Charlie, and she started off really good. I really like when she was just like taking care of the magical creatures. I thought she was fine, and then they really went crazy with her in the Konane relationship, and then
I hated the Kanane thing. I did not like that. I thought it was very annoying. I find her voice to be annoying, and it's not fair to the actress, maybe, that I find her voice to be annoying, but
Yeah.
it is. It's just kind of grating. Nothing wrong about her. Just I thought a character had a lot of annoying things to do too.
Yeah. So let's see. Favorite episode of the season. Let me see if I can find which one was my favorite. I also really like the whole Hay World thing and Hank's theme park based off of Nate's drawings. I liked that a lot. Oh, you know what was really funny too? Is when they're filming that commercial as Supergirl, Flash, and Arrow.
That was good.
And they're like, filming it in the dark so you can't really see it, but they're all dressed up like them and stuff. That was really cool to see. Let's see, favorite episode. It probably would be somewhere in this first. Oh, probably Legends of Tomawao, which is where Constantine really f's up the timeline, and you get the custodians of the chronology, you get the sirens of space time, the puppets of tomorrow. That's probably the best one of the season.
That's fun, and that's Legends being completely Legends, no rules. I think you enjoy Legends when there's less rules and less plot and more just crazy zaniness. So that's
we'll see,
good.
because I would still put season 1 above season 4 at this point. And I know that's probably not popular because I think people don't like season 1, but I was a big fan of everything but the Hawks in season 1.
I have a soft spot for everything in Legends outside of Connor, outside of Hawkman. Everything I love. I really didn't like Hawk Dude or Hawkman as he is named, but I will say that I really enjoyed the relationship that Nate and his father had in this, because I have a very loving, caring father, but we do not get each other. We have never pretended to get each other. And the idea that Nate would think, oh, his father doesn't even care, blah, 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 and then he built a whole theme park based on his drawings, that is so, I can connect to that on a very personal level of, my dad cares so unbelievably much, but God, is it hard to know sometimes, or God, is it hard to connect with him? As I've gotten older, I've become aware of how much the guy loves me, but I really connected with that storyline with Nate. I thought that was awesome. I thought it was touching.
Yeah. And it really hit home too when they said, I think it was like Sarah with Mick, looking at a picture of the Wild West days from the first season, and they're like, we're the only two left of the original team at that point because Ray was off doing something. But yeah, I mean that this show probably has the most turnover for some of the characters. But another bit I really like too is kind of a little homage to season 1 when Ray is in hell and he's playing chess with like Vandal Savage.
Were they playing Jenga?
Yeah, it was it was Jenga blocks. Yeah,
Jenga, that was great. Vandal Savage in Hell is kind of a fun concept. That was funny.
yeah. So yeah, that's season 4 of Legends. Season 7 of Arrow. So for some of these, I watched in like totally different order, I guess you could say. Like, I watched most of season 7 of Arrow before I watched the rest of Legends. So I saw Sarah pop up in like the Lost Canary episode, and it apparently took place sometime in between some of those Legend episodes, but they don't really reference that in Legends at all, that like Sarah was gone doing something, or her father died, like, or they don't really mention that stuff too much. But I thought that was I guess a fun episode. Season 7 was a slog for me for Arrow, especially the first half when he's in jail was absolutely brutal. The fast forwards are okay. It's, I don't know. The flash forwards are all right, I guess. I have probably more to say about the flash forwards in season 8, but the main complaint too is the whole Amiko Queen storyline. I didn't find that particularly thrilling. I'm glad to say I'm only 2 in season 8, and I'm finding it a great rebound from season 7 and 6. So I kind of dig where they're going there. One thing I kind of talked about it last week. I evaded saying it outright, but I was really taken aback when the Monitor shows up in the very final after Oliver's daughter is born, and then, pretty much enlists him on this quest that he is going to be going throughout season 8. I didn't realize that stuff happened in the show. I was almost thinking like, oh, he popped up in Elseworlds and he'll pop up in Crisis and that's it. But I kind of like how they've been setting up having the Monitor in a lot of these shows.
I enjoyed that the crossover for Crisis was built up to in every show, and I appreciate that Elseworlds mattered to Arrow. I liked the Monitor as a character. I thought he had this gravitas to him, and Oliver and him have some really interesting interactions, especially because Oliver's like annoyed, but like, yeah, I'm doing it. It was almost like Oliver listening to a dad or something, like, fine, I'll do it. I like that dynamic. It was cool.
Yeah, it was interesting season, I guess I'll say, for Arrow season 7. Just one, I didn't recognize Roy right away. Like when Will is on the island with him, when he took down his hood at first, I couldn't recognize it was Roy. Every other time in there, I could recognize it was Roy, but it was like just the way it was shot or something in that first reveal. I'm like, I know I'm supposed to know who that is, but the way it was shot or the angle it was shot, I couldn't tell it was Roy at first. The next episode started right after that, and I was like, oh yeah, it's Roy. So it's just weird. But yeah, so there you go with that. And then Supergirl season 4, my main complaint with that was making Alex forget Kara was Supergirl. I just didn't like that whole thing. Didn't really jive with me, I guess. It felt like manufactured drama. Like, oh, we need to have her hide it from somebody else because everybody else knows except for Lena. So we need to have somebody else not know, is kind of how that felt. But yeah, overall season 4 of Supergirl, I enjoyed.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. I agree with exactly your sentiments on that Alex forgetting thing. It was annoying, but other than that, I kind of like the season.
But yeah, that's what show did I forget any? No, I think that's it. That's all 4 of them. So next week, I know this is shorter than the usual ones, but next week we will talk Crisis on Infinite Earth. So anything through that. So I guess the first half of those seasons that we'll be able to talk about and probably focus mostly on the crossover like we usually do. And then the week after that, probably through the rest of those seasons as we look, I'm almost done some of these shows. Arrow I only have like 8 episodes of Arrow left. So that's interesting. Like I think the show from my counter on the app I have, the show that I still have the most episodes left of is Flash. Because it ran for so long compared to some of these other shows like Batwoman's 3 seasons. Supergirl, by the time I finish season 5, will only have one season left, and yeah, I think I still
You're a
have like
trooper.
60 some Flash episodes left. So we're trying to get to that finale, which Chris just got done watching last night. So
I've
no
been a
spoiler.
good boy. I haven't spoiled it. I've been good. But you should really enjoy it the first time through without the spoilers. And the good thing is about these shows is you have some conversation about the shows, but it's more about the legacy. It's not the week to week anymore.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so our next episode we'll be talking Man of Steel. So thank you all for watching or listening our Arrowverse update.